Okay, so I have another story for you today, another experience in awakening. And this one I think is pretty interesting. It might be kind of incredible to some people, but it happened, and so I'm going to tell it. And a lot of people will question where this is coming from. And believe me, I did the same thing. And I still do. Whenever I have the experiences that I have, I always try to use discernment and logic and reason and try to get to understand where a lot of this comes from. Back when I had this experience, I used to question a lot more. And since then, I'm totally used to pretty amazing things happening, and more so just even on a daily basis now. But anyway, let me tell you this story. So, at one point in time, I had gotten really deep into meditation, where I think that at some point I had connect to the cosmos, and I found that cosmic connection. And from that point forward, I would have encounters, as most people would describe them, of orbs, lights, telepathic communication, and UFOs. And I would see them pretty much for about 3 years. And they taught me a lot about the nature of reality. They, meaning the different beings that I would communicate with. And believe me, I had to go through the motions and thought and process of, is it me? Am I going crazy? Who am I talking to? Is this all in my head? But anybody that's experienced this will understand. Anyhow, I was driving home from work, and I usually work late at night, or sometimes come home late at night. And I was in the car, and I've been working all day, and I work with my hands, and I work with my hands all day, and they were tight, and they were just kind of tired. And so I was kind of pressing my hands on the steering wheel like this, and my palms were really tight. So for whatever reason, I had my hands on the steering wheel like this, with 3 fingers on the inside, 2 on the out, and I'm pressing the steering wheel right between my palms. And as I'm doing this, all of a sudden, I get a flash, a vision in my head, just like you kind of see on TV when people, their head kind of goes back and they come back in. It's a quick flash. It was just basically a picture image inside of my head of me. But me, in my mind, in this vision, was blue. And kind of similar to the ambiance you see right now, this has always been my favorite color. My favorite color has always been sort of a black light blue, the little hint of purple. Sometimes it goes more blue, sometimes it goes more purple, but it's always kind of ethereal, usually very soothing to me. And that's just kind of how I've always vibed. Just that color just keeps me tranquil and peaceful. And if anybody knows me, they know a lot of times I'm super manic. So I think this color just makes me feel at home. But okay, so in my vision, I look like me, but blue. And it was more blue. And it was like a tranquil blue. My forehead was wider. My chin was way more narrow. And I looked young. I looked a lot younger. But, oh, and I wore a gold medallion right here. And I thought I was kind of cute. I was like, oh, well, kind of cute. Blue, even though I'm blue. And the most interesting thing, well, that's pretty interesting, but what was kind of weird was I only had 3 fingers on both hands. So right after I get this flash, his media came back and I just started laughing. And I was like, ha 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 ha. Oh, Ren, your imagination, like, you really can go there, can't you? And that's kind of all I thought. But at the same time, there was a little part of me that was like, you didn't really do that, did you? And then what was I doing, like, pressing the steering wheel like that? I don't know. Sometimes I don't know why I do things. But anyway, so I get home, and it's about 2:30 a.m., and I walk into my bedroom, and my husband's asleep, and I know he was asleep. He was breathing deeply. There might have been some light snoring. I know his patterns. So as I walk in and I'm putting my things down, all of a sudden he quietly sits up. And as he sits up, he's not there. Like, I think he's still asleep, but at least in a trance. And his eyes are kind of glassy. And he didn't even look at me at first, and he said, "Give me your hand." And I started freaking out. I was like, what? Why do you want my hand? What? What's going on? What? And he just holds his hand out. I can't remember which one it was, but he held his hand out for me to give him my hand. And I think I was more freaked out than anything, but I went with it and I gave him my hand. And when I did, he took his hand, or my hand, in his hand. And he has a much bigger hand than I do, but he put his thumb and I think his middle finger, and he separated my 3 fingers from my first 3 from my last 2, and he inserts his hand like this, and he's holding it like this, but he's looking through me, and he says, "I just want to hold your hand." And the whole time he's doing this, why are you doing this? What are you doing? Why are you doing this? What are you doing? What's going on? And he just stayed that stoic and that sort of removed emotionally. And he just lets go of my hand. And then he lays back down. And he goes back to sleep. And at this point, I understood that something, spirit, a being, had used my husband as a channel to give me a message. And take that for what you will. Of course, I really thought about it, tried to get to the bottom of it, and thought to myself, is this real? Where is this coming from? And really questioned that. The further I've come along in life and in my journey, I don't question it as much, because the one thing I did realize about this experience, that experience, is that I can look back through my life and see how I have grown and where the connections have been. And it would just be the next logical step for me to experience something of that nature, to experience something of that nature. But to question is always good. To have discernment is always good. What was interesting is a little while before that, I had a dream of a friend of mine, a client friend, and she came in for her appointment, and she had a dream about me as well. We both dreamt of each other on the same night. And what was interesting was that she said that she had dreamt about me, and she didn't say I was blue, but she did say that I looked very similar to how I do now, just my forehead was a lot wider and my chin was a lot smaller, and that I spoke telepathically, and that I was just doing very important things. So I'd like to think that through some way and through space and time that I am contributing to at least help people keep an open mind and to explore our world maybe a little more, and to know that the possibilities and who we are and where we've come from, that it's a journey of not just who we're becoming, but remembering where we come from and how special we are. And it's all of us. So that's my story for today. And I don't think I left anything out, but more for next time.